Welcome to Linguistics Tube. On this channel, you will find videos about learning English, as well as more scientific videos about linguistics and psychology, and more general academic topics, such as study skills, conducting research, and writing academic articles. This episode is part of my series about research skills. In general, research skills focus on three broad areas. Firstly, the ability to gather information about a topic. Secondly, the ability to analyze and interpret the information. And finally, the ability to make conclusions as a result of your analysis. In this episode, I will focus on the first area, the ability to gather information about a topic. Data collection is at the heart of any research project. In many scientific research projects, you will probably collect primary data, which is original data that you get yourself. One of the most effective ways of doing this is by asking questions, and one of the most common ways to ask questions is by creating a questionnaire and giving it to participants to complete. In order to get the most useful information from your participants, you will need to construct the most effective questionnaire. To do that, we need to know what kinds of questions we can ask. We will explore this in this episode. Before we learn about questionnaires in detail, let's briefly discuss the start of the process of creating a research project. Firstly, you need to choose a topic to investigate. The most basic goal of a scientific research project is to discover something. In order to do this, your project must answer one or two questions in order to provide knowledge about something that was previously unknown, or at least not well known. These one or two questions are called research questions. You will ask them at the start of your research, and the purpose of your project is to answer them. In the video in this series about the structure of an academic article, you can find more information about research questions. After you have chosen your topic and asked your research question, you need to investigate it. In order to do this, you need to collect data. In general, there are two types of data: primary data and secondary data. In a typical scientific research project, you need to collect primary data. This is original data. Therefore, you must collect it yourself because it does not exist anywhere else. The other type of data is secondary data. This is not original data because it is data that has already been collected and already exists somewhere. For example, another researcher could publish their previous data online. Does this mean that you cannot use secondary data in a research project? Well, you certainly can, but only to support your findings. This is because it shows that other people agree with you, or that other data is consistent with your data, which makes your data more convincing. However, in a typical scientific research project, you cannot use someone else's data to create your findings, only to support your findings. Remember that, in a typical research project, you must collect primary data. The most common way to do this is by conducting a survey. A survey is an investigation of the opinions and behavior of a particular group of people. This is usually done by asking them questions. In general, there are two types of survey: questionnaires and interviews. And to collect your data, you could choose one of them or both of them. Let's learn about these two types of survey. Firstly, let's discuss questionnaires. These are a written list of questions that are answered by the participants. Historically, a questionnaire was a printed document that was given to each participant to complete. However, with the advancement of technology, questionnaires are now mostly created and completed online. This has advantages for both the participants and the researchers. Firstly, it is of course much more convenient and efficient for the participants to complete it online. And secondly, for the researchers, distributing questionnaires online saves time, because you do not need to find and physically give each participant a piece of paper, and also it is likely that many more participants will complete the questionnaire if they can do it in the most convenient place and at the most convenient time for them. The second type of survey is an interview, which is usually a face-to-face discussion with the participant in which questions are asked and answered. In this case, we refer to the participant as an interviewee. Without a doubt, the most ideal form of an interview is face-to-face. But if this is not possible, then a video call or voice call is also acceptable. However, I do not recommend a written interview through email or a messaging app, because it becomes similar to a questionnaire, and you won't get any of the advantages of choosing this form of data collection. The two most important advantages of interviews are that they give both the researcher and interviewee the freedom and flexibility to add additional information, as well as ask slightly different questions based on the answers. Now that we know the basic differences between the two types of survey, it is clear that both of them have different advantages and disadvantages. Therefore, please pause the video and think about these questions. Firstly, what are the advantages and disadvantages of both types of survey? And secondly, in your research project, should you choose one type or both? Here are my thoughts. You should choose questionnaires if you want to get the opinions of many people and your questions do not require deep, complicated answers. On the other hand, choose interviews if you want to get rich, detailed answers on a complex topic and you don't mind having only a small number of interviewees. Therefore, the main difference between them is the balance between a large amount of fairly simple data and a small amount of richer data. Which one you choose, or whether you choose both, depends on your topic. For example, if you are a university student, then your first research project should be quite simple. For my students' first research project, they investigate something at the university. One of my students' topics that used a questionnaire was students' views on fake products. This was a suitable topic for a questionnaire because they needed to collect data from a large number of students, and the kinds of questions they needed to ask were simple. In contrast, a topic suitable for interviews was the lifestyle and working conditions of the university's cleaners. For this topic, the researchers needed to find 5 to 10 cleaners and ask detailed questions to fully understand their situation. In conclusion, the method of data collection that you choose will depend on your topic and the balance between the depth and the amount of data that you want to gather. We will focus on questionnaires for the rest of this episode, as it can be difficult to create effective ones. To create a questionnaire that is the most effective for gathering the data you need, and that is the most interesting for your participants to complete, it is important to create a wide range of questions. In general, there are 3 types of questions that your questionnaire should include: closed-ended questions, open-ended questions, and indirect questions. Within the first question type, there are several forms, so we will explore each one in turn. After I have explained each question form, I would like you to create a new question for the topic students' attitudes towards and their use of their university canteens. I recommend you spend 1 minute on each question type. Firstly, I'll show you some typical photos of a university canteen in China, where I teach, to give you some ideas. I will show you these question types in the approximate order that they could appear in your questionnaire. We'll start with the most simple and introductory questions, and end with the most specific and detailed ones. The first type of question that we'll discuss is called the binary question. The word binary means a choice between only two options. Thus, to use it, the nature of the question that you ask will require binary answers, and participants choose the most appropriate answer for them. Almost all the time, there will only be two options, but depending on the nature of your question, there can possibly be a third option. We'll see an example of that on the next screen. This type of question is simplistic, and you might think that not much information can be gained from a yes or no question. However, this makes it an accessible way to begin a questionnaire, and it opens the door for more detailed questions to be asked after this question. Here are some examples. Do you play video games in your free time? Underline or circle the most appropriate answer, which is yes or no. Are you in favour of the death penalty? Tick the answer that you agree with. In favour or not in favour? Do you like cheese? Underline or circle the most appropriate answer. And that could be yes, no, or never tried it. So you can see that there are several binary answers to choose from, depending on your question. The answers can be yes or no, in favour or not in favour. Finally, in the third example, you can see that the nature of the question requires a third option, because you cannot like something if you have never tried it. Now, please pause the video and create a binary question for the topic, students' attitudes and use of their university canteen. The second type of close-ended question is the multiple choice question. This is a great type of question to use early in your questionnaire because it is easy for the participant to answer and it is quick for the researcher to organize all the answers. To use it, the question that you ask requires one specific answer. Most of the time, you should give the participants several options to choose from. However, if there are too many possible answers, then do not give the participant choices. Instead, give them space to write their own answer, which should be short. However, the disadvantage of this is that you will need to do additional research if you don't already know the participant's answer. Here are two examples to demonstrate this. Which part of the UK are you from? Circle the correct answer. England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. What brand of toothpaste do you normally buy? Please write your answer in the space below. The first example gives options because there are only 4 possible choices. However, in the second example, there are endless brands of toothpaste, so let the participant write their answer themselves. If you haven't heard of the brand, then you will need to spend time learning about it before you analyze the data and make your conclusions. Now, please pause the video and create a multiple choice question yourself. The next type of question is a type of multiple choice question, because the participant is given several options to choose and can only choose one option. In this question type, you ask a question that requires the participant to state how often he or she does something. Therefore, it is called a frequency question. This question type provides useful information about the regularity of an action. However, the participant's answer almost always indicates something more interesting. For example, if the participant does something very rarely, then it indicates that the participant doesn't enjoy the activity. Thus, frequency can indicate his or her opinion about the activity. Because of this, you should think carefully about what extra information is revealed and ask appropriate follow-up questions to investigate this further, if necessary. Here are two examples to demonstrate this. How often do you watch TV? Every day. 4 to 6 days a week. 3 to 5 days a week. 1 to 2 days a week. Never. How frequently do you use public transport? All the time. Often. Occasionally. Never. The options in the first example are more specific, as they contain time ranges such as 4 to 6 days a week. In the second example, the options are more general. This is because people arguably watch TV more than they use public transport, so the options in the first example can afford to be more specific. Now, please pause the video and create a frequency question for the topic about university canteens. The next type of question is again a type of multiple choice question, because the participant is given several options to choose and can only choose one option. In this case, instead of investigating how often the participants do something, this question type investigates what participants like and dislike. It is called a preference question. As the name suggests, it is a quick way to discover participants' preferences. However, this question type is also quite limited in terms of how much information you can gather. Therefore, after this question, you should use additional question types, which can give you more detailed information about their preferences. For example, you will probably want to know how their preference compares to the other choices in the question. Also, you'll probably want to know why they have this preference. We'll see the question types that can do this soon. Here is an example of a preference question. Which of these ice cream flavors do you prefer? Vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, or other? Please specify. As you can see, it gives the option to provide an alternative answer if the participant's choice of ice cream flavor is a less common one. Now, please pause the video and create a preference question for the topic about university canteens. The next type of question is one of the most popular types to include on a questionnaire. To use this type, you should ask a question that requires participants to rate their opinion about something. To do this, they will choose the closest option to their opinion on a scale with 5 points. This is called a Likert scale, and if you have ever completed a questionnaire, it's very likely that it included a Likert scale question. What do the options in the rating look like? Well, the type of rating you use will depend on the content of your question. Often, these questions investigate participants' level of agreement with the question, so it is common for the options to range from strongly agree to strongly disagree. But other options are also available, as we'll soon see. This type of question provides more precise information than binary questions. Look at the example on the screen now. How would you rate the Linguistics Tube channel? Excellent, good, fair, poor, or very poor? Compare this to a binary question, like, do you like the Linguistics Tube channel? Yes or no? A rating question therefore provides more precise information about the level that my channel is liked. However, one problem is that different participants may have different interpretations of the same rating. In other words, if one participant is stricter than another, then the first participant's good might be the same quality as the second participant's excellent. The solution to this is to use additional question types that explore the reasons for their choice. Here are two more examples. Video games are the best way to relieve stress. Circle the answer that corresponds with your level of agreement. Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. How satisfied are you today with your meal? Very satisfied, satisfied, neutral, unsatisfied, very unsatisfied. In addition to excellent to very poor, you can also use strongly agree to strongly disagree, and very satisfied to very unsatisfied. Like before, the nature of the question will determine which choices you use. Now, please pause the video and create a Likert scale question for the topic about university canteens. The next type of question is called a checklist question. It looks similar to a multiple choice question because several options are provided for the participant to consider. However, the difference is that the participants are allowed to choose more than one answer. You can also let the participant provide additional answers if necessary, but make sure the participant keeps their answers short, perhaps only 3 to 4 words each. Longer answers are only needed when the participant explains something. This type of question gives the researcher more detailed information than multiple choice questions, because the participant can choose more than one answer. However, the obvious disadvantage is that the researcher doesn't know which selected options are more important to the participant than the others. This is why the next question type can be useful. Anyway, let's look at some examples. Here are 2 examples. Why did you buy a Xiaomi phone? Underline all appropriate answers. Good design, long battery life, lower price, efficient after-sales service. Which video games do you play? Circle all that apply. World of Warcraft, Super Mario Bros., League of Legends, Candy Crush. Others, please specify. As you can see, you can provide participants with the option to add additional answers if theirs isn't included. Now, please pause the video and create a checklist question for the topic about university canteens. The final type of closed-ended question that we'll learn about provides perhaps the most amount of information. In this type, you ask a question that requires the participants to put several options in order of preference or agreement. Because the participant engages with multiple options and puts them in order, This type of question gives the researcher more information about the preferences of the participant than both multiple choice questions and checklist questions. It is therefore a very useful question type. The only limitation is that it does not give the reason for the ranking. For this, you should ask follow-up questions that ascertain the participant's reasons. Open-ended questions, which we'll see soon, will achieve this purpose. Here are two examples. For the best overall quality, how would you rank the following phone manufacturers? Write a number from 1, the highest quality, to 5, the lowest quality, in the space provided. And the choices are iPhone, Samsung, Oppo, Xiaomi, and Huawei. Who do you most enjoy playing video games with? Rank these options in order of preference. 1 is the most preferred, and 5 is the least preferred. And the options are parents, siblings, relatives, friends, strangers. Now, please pause the video and create a checklist question for the topic about university canteens. Let's now discuss the second major question type, the open-ended question. Different from close-ended questions, whose designs limit the possible answers to just a few words, open-ended questions provide space on the questionnaire, such as a box or several lines, for participants to write an answer in their own words. You should use this question type when you want to know the reason for something, so it can be very useful as a follow-up question to a close-ended question type. The major advantage is, of course, that you will be able to get more detailed, meaningful answers than close-ended questions. But the major disadvantage is that it'll take more time to gather and process the answers. Here are some examples. What things do you like most about the Linguistics Tube channel? How can the Linguistics Tube channel be improved? What do you think about when you look at this advertisement? How do you spend your free time? How did you meet your husband or wife? You can see that they all begin with question words, which automatically require longer answers to be written. Now, please pause the video and create an open-ended question for the topic about university canteens. The final major question type is called indirect questions. To use this type of question, you prepare the participant by writing the beginning of a sentence and asking them to finish it. This is a great question type to use, and it is often underused by researchers. That's a shame, because you can often get more interesting information if you let the participant answer an unfinished sentence, because the way you start the sentence will direct them towards a certain answer. Through this, the question can reveal the attitudes and feelings of the participants more so than open-ended questions, who might not know how to structure their answer in the most appropriate way to give the most information. Here are two examples. Please complete the following sentence. Nowadays, TikTok is used more than YouTube because... Please complete the following sentence. My least favorite aspect of the Linguistics Tube channel is... Now, please pause the video and create an indirect question for the topic about university canteens. In fact, you have a lot of flexibility when creating the questions and choosing the question types. while I have discussed the three major question types separately, they are actually not mutually exclusive. Therefore, they can be combined in order to gain the most useful information from participants. The obvious way to do this is to attach an open-ended question to the end of a close-ended question by asking for an explanation of the participant's choice and giving them space to write an explanation underneath the question. Here are two examples. Do you think playing video games leads to addiction? Yes or no? Please provide your reasons in the space below. How would you rate the Linguistics Tube channel? Excellent, good, fair, poor, very poor. Please explain why you gave this ranking. Here, I used a binary question and a Likert scale question, but any of the close-ended questions could add an open-ended question for additional explanation. Now, please pause the video and create a combined question for the topic about university canteens. This is the end of the video about creating effective questionnaires. If you liked what you heard, then you can find more videos in my Research Skills series, as well as other series on the topics of English and linguistics. Thank you for watching.